This is the notorious part of Medellin known as Comuna 13. At one point, this was considered the most dangerous neighborhood in the most dangerous city in the world. Today, however, it stands as a tourist destination and a testament to how much things have changed in Medellin. I'll show you Comuna 13 over the next several minutes, but I'll also take you to a lesser-known part of town. Comuna Four faced many of the same challenges, and it too has undergone a tremendous transformation. I'm thrilled to be able to share its story with you as well. I will begin in Comuna 13. It is now one of the most popular places for tourists to visit in the entire city of Medellin. A neighborhood that has such a dark and violent past now resembles the main tourist strip and countless other destinations around the world. There are bright colors, tons of places to eat and drink, crowds of people walking the streets to see the main attractions, and entertainers around every corner. Dozens of companies and individuals are ready to provide tours of Comuna 13, showing travelers a good time. Those tours feature the vibrant graffiti that is everywhere in the neighborhood, and the best ones explain the history and how this part of the city became what it is today.
Welcome to Medellin!
I joined one of those tours and had an incredible experience. Comuna 13 is pretty easy to get to from the area where most visitors stay. My tour, which I booked through Get Your Guide, included the metro tickets in the price, as well as the bus that was taken into the heart of Comuna 13 from the metro stop. As a side trip, the journey included a metro cable ride. That is an experience all its own and gives a good indication of how the transportation system links all areas of the city together. In this particular instance, the metro cable ride yielded a view from above of pretty much the entire Comuna 13. Just about everything you see here is part of the neighborhood. Just a very small portion of it is included in the walking and graffiti tour. Upon arriving in the main tourist area, we were immediately treated to a group of dancers performing to the music. Some of their moves were spectacular. The talent of residents of Comuna 13 was certainly on display there. It was also apparent in some of the best street art that you will find anywhere. A lot of the graffiti has deep meaning, but some is just for fun, such as at this spot.
If you kiss your significant other in this bench, you will be together forever.
Our tour included a stop for a Colombian ice cream treat. I couldn't resist.
It is pretty warm right now, as you could tell, and ice cream sort of hits the spot. This is passion fruit pineapple, a new flavor that they offered, and it's quite satisfying.
The tour also featured a bar with some of the best views of the neighborhood. It included props and backdrops that are intended to make the most of social media opportunities. Most of us sampled a Colombian beer and added yet another element to an already fantastic day. Everything, the beer, the ice cream, the entertainment, the transportation, was covered by the $23 price of the excursion.
I will take you to the best view.
My tour guide was fair. They answered every question and anticipated many more.
So the question you always ask is, does people like us coming here to the neighborhood? Yes, we do, because it's thanks to you that we can live very nice lives.
That is good to hear, because you definitely do not want to exploit an area and the people who live there because of the horrible things that happen to them. As painful as its past is, Comuna 13 wants to remember.
If you forget whatever it is, you will repeat it. And we don't want to repeat what happened here ever again.
People here were caught in the middle of a number of different factions. The most dominant were the gangs and cartels that controlled large sections of Medellin.
The neighborhoods that were more poor were more vulnerable to the gangs. But the gangs were really smart. At the beginning, they weren't violent. They were actually super nice to the people.
At first, the residents were courted with presents and even homes. Those gifts, however, came with a price.
If the police would come for the gangs, then the people had to hide them. And if they didn't, they would get killed.
Things got worse and worse through the 80s and the 90s. People were ultimately targeted for who they were or who they looked like. There were harsh implications for just walking too far along specific streets.
Up there in the mountain was the territory of the gang, so if you would cross this border, you would get killed.
Even when the government cracked down on the gangs and paramilitary groups with Operation Orion in 2002, there was collateral damage. The scars are lasting and commemorated in the street art.
If you look to the mountain, you will see a brown spot. In that brown spot, you will see black dots in it. And if you look closely to those black dots, those are people. And if you look to my left, up there in the mountains, you will see the brown spot right there. If you go there and you start digging, you will find a body.
The amount of street art in Comuna 13 is staggering. Nearly every wall has been covered. It began as a way to protest what was happening in the neighborhood. Then people found that the focus on creative expression was helping in other ways as well.
It's art instead of war. It's art instead of fighting.
Over time, many people in Comuna 13 began working to transform the neighborhood from an area beset by tragedy and fear into the place it is today. It is now a symbol of successful transformation, filled with brightness, a passion for life, and an optimism for the future. There was help along the way. There are 6 escalators allowing people to move up and down the steep slopes of the hill. That was a significant enhancement of quality of life for the residents. Funding came from Japan to create the new way of movement.
They built the escalators in 1 year. February 2012, the escalators were inaugurated.
Likewise, money from Saudi Arabia flowed into the neighborhood. It was used to construct this road, which has also been a major upgrade from what was there in the past. Internally, though, it was the graffiti and the music and the dance which provided options for young people in Comuna 13.
The social leaders were artists, they were rappers, they were dancers, they were people that do DJ, you know. All of them came together to teach the little kids to do something different than going to the gangs. I think 100% the art is the main focus, is the reason Comuna 13 is what it is today.
The transformation here is an ongoing process. A small portion of a large area gets all the attention and has seen the vast majority of the improvements, but that's just the start.
Today we only have only one road, you know, but Comuna 13 maybe 5 years is going to expand to other places. It's actually expanding right now.
The experience in Comuna Four was totally different than Comuna 13. I joined a tour that met at the Caribe metro station. It was a short walk across the river into the neighborhood. Initially, most people settled here, not by buying land or renting, but by squatting on property that no one else had claimed. The city did not make it easy.
It was a neighborhood where people used to live, and then the authorities turned that neighborhood into the trash dump, and people started coexisting, and at some point even living off the trash dump.
There was so much trash dumped here for years that there are now hills where none existed before. A guide and a community leader who joined us told me too late not to capture clips upon first entering the area because gangs were still active here in selling land that they don't own. Farther in, using cameras was more acceptable, but they still ask us not to get shots in some locations to be respectful to residents. Comuna Four's history is similar to that of Comuna 13.
Like many other neighborhoods in Medellin, also lived a lot of violence from the guerrillas, from the paramilitaries, from the gangs, from the militias. This neighborhood lived that as well.
Unlike in the more well-known Comuna 13, very few tours are offered in Comuna 4. I didn't see any other groups on the day that we were there, and Real City Tours only visits 3 days each week. There is no flash or pizzazz here designed to attract tourists. No entertainers on the streets, no line of souvenir shops. Only people who live here, going through their day-to-day existence. The difference between comunas is dramatic.
Comuna 13 has done an amazing job at changing the narrative of Medellin, at putting images and been spot for people to think of transformation of Medellin in images.
Comuna 13 has benefited from all the tourist activity in general. However, Pablo, my guide, says there has been a cost for some of the residents.
Where people used to live in Comuna 13 because that's what they could afford, and they have been kicked out because they say we're gonna open a souvenir shop here.
The changes, the transformation for Comuna Four are visually not as apparent. To recognize what has happened here, it is necessary to have one-on-one interactions.
This neighborhood does the same, but from another type of stimuli. Like when you get to know the stories of the people, when you get to hug those people who went through that.
To that end, someone who has been instrumental in shaping the community joins each tour to tell their personal story. For us, that was Gloria, and we met others along the way.
What sets this neighborhood apart from Comuna 13, and I hope it stays like this, is like this neighborhood keeps being the neighborhood of the people.
While Gloria was with our tour the entire time, we ran into Edwina just for a few minutes. It was long enough for her to sing a song.
Padre Vicente, dice somos gente.
In the song, she pays tribute to a priest who arrived and helped the people here in the darkest of times.
Él nos acompaña y nos da su abrigo.
Afterwards, she gave thanks to us as visitors for coming to Comuna Four and this small portion of it, which is called Moravia.
Fue un placer haberlos conocido.
Still, you took time to come to our neighborhood, to hear the story of Gloria, to understand and to get to know about this. So she appreciates that you're doing that.
There were fun elements about the trip to Comuna Four. We were treated to ice cream and got to try empanadas that a couple of women were cooking up on the street. While there wasn't a lot of it, the street art that we saw all carried very deep meaning. We saw parts of the community where people were making the most of their situation, and we got an idea of what it costs to live here.
One is 800,000 pesos, and you don't have to pay utilities for it. The other one is 560.
That highest price works out to about $200 per month, US. This place, this tour though, was about the stories. The early days here were difficult for Gloria and her family. Not everyone survived. Life here is still hard at times. Despite that, Gloria's attitude is remarkably upbeat. My assessment is that her pain and sorrow is overshadowed by a focus on trying to make the future better for Moravia.
Despite of the endless violence that we have gone through, still to today, there are a lot of men and women fighting with hope.
A source of pride is this community center. It provides a safe place and all sorts of classes and experiences that can help individuals better their lives. The hope is that the hard-won progress which has been achieved so far can be built upon to gain even more victories.
What she's saying is, we have a dream and we want the dream to be magnified.
Pablo says that Moravia and Comuna Four are unique and special, while at the same time being representative of many other communities that have struggled through poverty and violence and are now emerging on the other side.
It's like a perfect sweet spot to understand things of Colombia, to understand things of Medellin, and also to understand some specific process of community leadership, of women empowerment.
He makes an important point. The overwhelming majority of those doing the work here are women. There is even a spot in the neighborhood where a mural honors Gloria's mother for her efforts. In the journey for this community to become a better place, however, there are always challenges.
The previous generation that was very strong maybe is feeling that the new generation needs more commitment.
It's not just an internal struggle either. Leaders in this community have been the major force behind improving Comuna Four. They want to continue to be involved as additional changes are made.
The urban transformation in this neighborhood should come from the bottoms up, not the other way around. And I think they are clear on fighting for that.
The tour here did its job. It made all of us in the group care about the people we met and wish for them the best as they move forward. Going to new places gives people the opportunity to see amazing things and experience different cultures. As Gloria said in her final words to the group, though, it is beneficial for everyone to learn about the people who live in and around the places they visit.
She says the tourism, that the way we understand it, is about talking about the reality. And she says that's what we are trying to do here with in the company or with these tours.
I'm certain that life is still not easy for all of the residents of Comuna 13 and Comuna 4. Undoubtedly, though, things are much improved from 30 years ago. It has been a complete honor for me to visit both places and learn of what all the people who live there have gone through. If you are ever in Medellin, grab the opportunity to see neighborhoods such as this. It will give you a better understanding of the city than you can get by simply staying in Poblado or Laureles. Thank you for watching Old, Alone, and Far From Home. I will see you next time.